Today we're going to go over the last and next steps in a sourcing event once you have basically completed the entire event. So the other videos that we're showing you are starting off with creation, item build, attachments, questionnaires, supplier additions, reviewing all of the responses you get from suppliers, even awarding those responses. And so you kind of have to wonder what's next. So let's start off by saying you don't have to do anything with the sourcing event. If your end user decides not to move forward, you don't have a next step. If you just needed it for a backing document for, a quote for next year's capital, you don't have to do anything with it at this moment. So that's first option. Second option, let's say that in this example we're looking at, this was created from a requisition. So this buyer took a rec from an end user, moved it into a sourcing event, sent this out to suppliers, we awarded it, etc. Now what do we do? So what we can do, because my end user does want to move forward, I could actually go to responses. I've already awarded this to the Aaron Group, and I would click on their name. And when I go down here, I can see that I have to select the items. And, sorry, it's being weird, add awarded items to. So these two are what I want to use. Catalog and catalog with new contract are never selected. As we know, when we create catalogs, we do that through eProcurement. We don't do that ourselves. So the two options I have here are requisition and new requisition. Since this came from a requisition, I'm actually going to select this, and this is where you have to have a registered supplier. So like we talked about in the other video, you don't necessarily have to have a registered supplier to send them the event, but to be able to move it to a purchase and award it, you have to have a registered supplier. So it's asking, is this the supplier that we're awarding this to? Yes, we hit save. And what the system is doing, it's actually taking the details from my event, right? Now my event is selected and it's linked to this requisition, and it has pulled the item detail from my RFP into this line item. Not only has it done that, but you can see the backing document has now selected the sourcing event, which can only be done if you go to the sourcing event and award it or move it to a requisition. That's the only time the two can be linked. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And once everything's here, I just want to make sure it makes sense to our standards, right? Does the description make sense? Is the supplier correct? Is the commodity correct? Is the price obviously came from the sourcing event? Is a unit of measure correct? Right? All of those things that we are supposed to check before we process a requisition. So I just want to make sure they're all correct, but here it is. That is how you move a sourcing event that's been awarded into the rec that it came from, and then your next step is just to send it to the next approver. And don't worry about keeping the documents or writing anything down, because if audit ever were to come and say, hey, I need a backing document for why you awarded this $15,000 worth of business, you can say, hey, my sourcing event's attached. So way to go. The next type is this example where it's a dice event, and if you look at the responses, the dice that we're bidding out is actually multiple purchases over multiple months, and it's a lot of different items. So the best way to do this is not to actually take this and do anything with it. From a move it to a rec, move it to a new rec, we're actually not going to do anything like that. We're going to take all of the responses and attachments for Midwest. We're going to take the responses and then attachments for Midwest, and we are going to turn those into PDFs, and we're going to submit those with our catalog request to eProcurement, so that ePro can actually create a catalog for these dice, and then my department can order them as needed throughout the next 12 months. So that is another option for what you do next when you have finished a sourcing event. Now, the last option I want to show you, this is actually a fairly large sourcing event for the luxury gift program. The responses are all here. Pricing and everything was actually done via the attachments and not in items and lots. In this particular case, I'm actually going to use this just as a backing document and reference material for a contract. So the contract is going to be a separate document. It's going to route for approvals in a separate way. But when I route it, I'm actually going to reference back to this event so that I have an audit trail as to why my supplier was awarded this business. This is all the information that they're going to need to find that out. So those are kind of the 3 different scenarios and next steps you can take after you finish and complete and award a sourcing event. Hopefully this has been helpful. Have a good day.